Hey, welcome to our explainer. Think about it. Every single day, billions of us are scrolling, liking, and sharing on social media. It feels like a space we control, right? But behind the screen, there's this powerful engine at work. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden ethical landscape that's shaping our digital lives.
So let's just start with a really simple question. Who or what is really deciding what you see? Is it you? Or is it some complex system designed for a purpose you might not even know about? Let's dig in.
Okay, first up, let's talk about something we all know, the infinite scroll. It's the foundation of how we use these platforms. And understanding it is really the first step to seeing the bigger picture.
You know the feeling, right? You open an app, just for a minute, and then poof, an hour is gone. Well, that's not an accident. The infinite scroll, the constant notifications, they're designed to do exactly that, to keep you engaged, always looking for that next post, creating this hypnotic, endless feed.
So what's the science behind that? Why does it feel so sticky? Well, every single like, comment, and share you get triggers a little release of dopamine in your brain. This creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop. We post something, we get validated, we feel that little buzz of pleasure, and it drives us to want that feeling of social validation again and again. And that, right there, is a super powerful psychological hook.
And this creates a real paradox, right? On one hand, these platforms give us this constant connection, which is amazing in a lot of ways. But at the same time, they create this environment of constant comparison. We're always seeing the highlight reels of everyone else's lives, which research has linked to rising rates of anxiety, depression, and body image issues, especially for younger users.
Okay, so what's really driving all this? To get that, we have to go behind the screen and take a look at this invisible engine that's running the show and powering our feeds. And here's the absolute key to understanding all of this. For most of these platforms, their main goal isn't really to connect us. It's to maximize our engagement. The more time you spend clicking, liking, commenting, the more data they can collect, and the more ads they can sell. At the end of the day, your attention is the product they're selling.
In this engine, it works in a pretty straightforward three-step process. Step 1, it just gobbles up your data, what you like, who you talk to, even where you go. Step 2, it uses all that data and powerful algorithms to build this incredibly detailed profile of you, even predicting what you'll do next. And then, step 3, it turns around and uses that profile to sell super targeted ads right back to you.
This quote from Ethics in Technology just hits the nail on the head. See? The system is built to keep you hooked, not necessarily to show you what's true or what's actually good for you. Engagement over accuracy. That's the game. But this engagement at all costs model, it's not just about selling you sneakers. It has huge, real-world consequences. The effects are so widespread, some folks are even calling it a digital pandemic, spreading some pretty harmful effects all through society.
And for young people, the impact can be especially tough. I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got this mix of addictive design, constant social comparison, and the ever-present threat of cyberbullying. It's basically a perfect storm that's being directly linked to a growing mental health crisis, feeding into everything from anxiety and depression to serious sleep problems.
Now, let's zoom out to the societal level. These algorithms have a tendency to create echo chambers. Because the algorithm knows what you like, it keeps feeding you more of the same. It reinforces what you already believe, which limits your exposure to different ideas. And what was supposed to be a public square, a place for debate, kind of fractures into all these little isolated and often polarized bubbles. And make no mistake, the stakes here are incredibly high. These tools have been used to shake major global events. Just look at the 2016 US election, where targeted misinformation campaigns just spread like wildfire. Or think about Brexit, where the online conversation was massively skewed. And it gets smerrier. We've seen completely false conspiracy theories, like Pizzagate, spill over from the internet into real-world violence. This is that critical moment where the digital and the physical collide, and the consequences can be serious.
So, this leads us to one of the biggest, thorniest questions of our time. How on earth do we police these platforms? It's a huge balancing act, and there are absolutely no easy answers.
And right at the heart of it is this massive dilemma: safety versus censorship. On one side, you've got the need to protect users from genuinely harmful stuff like hate speech and harassment. But on the other side, if you go too far, you risk shutting down legitimate debate and silencing important voices. So, where do you draw the line? And this gets even trickier when you start talking about free speech versus hate speech. Sure, there are legal definitions, but on a global platform, what one person calls free expression, another might see as dangerous hate speech. That line is super blurry, and it changes depending on culture and context.
So what happens when the rules are unclear or they're not applied consistently? Well, you get what's called the chilling effect. People get scared to speak their minds because they're afraid of getting banned or suspended. And ironically, it can kill the very kind of open conversation these platforms were supposed to be for.
Okay, so with all these massive challenges, is it just hopeless? Not at all. Let's dive into some of the blueprints that are on the table right now for building a digital world that's a bit more ethical and a lot more responsible.
To figure out a path forward, a lot of experts say we need to go back to basics, back to some classic ethical frameworks. So you could look at it through utilitarian lens and ask, okay, which choice does the most good for the most people and causes the least harm? Or you could take a deontological view, which focuses on moral rules, and ask, are we protecting fundamental rights like privacy? And a justice-focused lens makes us ask, is this decision going to unfairly hurt already vulnerable groups? Using these kinds of frameworks can help guide us toward much better solutions.
Look, there's no single magic bullet here. The solution has to be a team effort, a multi-level strategy. First up, regulation. We need governments to set clear rules of the road, like the EU's Digital Services Act. Next, transparency. The platforms have got to open up the black box and explain how their algorithms actually work. Then there's ethical design. The companies themselves need to build in safeguards and prioritize our well-being from the very beginning. And finally, a huge piece of this puzzle is us. We all need to boost our media literacy, to learn how to spot manipulation and think critically about what we see and share.
So at the end of the day, the future of our digital lives really boils down to this one question. It forces us to decide what role we want to play in this whole ecosystem. Are we just the users of these platforms, or have we actually become the product? How we answer that is going to define the entire next chapter of the internet.